Before I get started, I want to give a huge thank you to Brian, the Flying Mentor. He is someone that I kind of know personally. I found out about his channel, he found out about my channel, and he gave me this new microphone, so I want to take a moment to thank him for that. And if you're into planes, flying, and anything along those lines, I highly recommend you check out his channel. His name is Brian, the Flying Mentor, and he has vast knowledge on anything pertaining to flying or planes. So if you're into that kind of stuff, I highly recommend it. Check it out, like, subscribe, and again, Brian, thank you. Now that December is behind me, let's get into all the stuff I started watching in the month of January, starting with a movie that came out in 2023. It came out over the holidays. I just could not find any time to sit down and watch it, but I finally sat down and watched Zack Snyder's new joint, Rebel Moon Part 1, Child of Fire, in which this is his attempt at making a sci-fi epic along with Star Wars, Dune, and even the Magnificent Seven. But this film takes place somewhere in a galaxy far, far away, no pun intended. This fascist society is monitoring the galaxy and have different planets and systems harvesting, but the head man in charge, he comes down to one of the planets, threatens to kill people, but then this girl, played by Sofia Boutella, she takes a stand. She used to work with this fascist society, but then she broke away, and now she is one of the rebels, and this society is looking for all the rebels that try to oppose them. Yeah, that sounds a lot like Star Wars, doesn't it? It also sounds a lot like the Magnificent Seven. And it also sounds like Dune. Now, ever since this movie came out, it's been getting a lot of hate. Either if you're a Zack Snyder hater or not, this movie has just been getting a lot of hate. It has a low Rotten Tomato score. Some people are calling it the worst Zack Snyder movie ever made. And people are also saying this movie is just derivative of other sci-fi epics. And in truth, it kind of is, but I'm not going to penalize the movie. Well, all right, I'll get to that in a sec. But as far as Zack Snyder goes, I am not a Zack Snyder hater. He's made movies I liked. He's made movies I thought were okay. He's made movies that I was kind of mixed on. And he's made one movie that I just dislike, and that is Sucker Punch. But here, he has finally made a movie that I dislike more than Sucker Punch. Yes, indeed, this is the worst film he has ever made, in my opinion. I honestly struggle to remember this plot. I honestly struggle to remember these characters. There was just nothing memorable about this movie. Now, as far as all the things people saying that this movie is just derivative of other sci-fi epics, I mean, I get it, but I also get, like, at this point, most movies can be described by saying if the plot of this and the plot of that would splat with each other. And in the case of Rebel Moon, it really is Star Wars, Dune, and the Magnificent rolled into one movie. I get that. But at the same time, there's just not one original idea in this movie. And if you're going to cannibalize off of other movies, just make the movie at least entertaining, and that's the problem. This movie was just not entertaining. And I will admit, Zack Snyder's filmmaking and all the visuals is stunning to look at times, and the action scenes are pretty decent. But this film also has some of the worst tendencies from Zack Snyder. I think he leaned a little bit too much on the visuals, he leaned too much on the action scenes, and of course the slow-mos, which I don't have no issue with. But at the same time, there was just too many that it kind of made the movie longer than it was supposed to be, and it got a bit overwhelmed. Now, Sofia Boutella, I was kind of rooting for her in this movie. I think she's a great action star, and she's been good in some things here and there, particularly the first Kingsman movie. But I just feel like she just was not given enough here, and I think she could be good in a role like this. But Zack Snyder, she gave her material that just leaves much to be desired. And Sofia Boutella is really just the only person that I remember from this movie. And it's not because she's in the starring role, but because everybody else, they just have nothing to remember. I mean, I remember actors like Djimon Hounsou and Charlie Hunnam and Ed Skrein, who I didn't recognize at first because of that stupid haircut, and he kind of altered himself a little bit. He's basically the Darth Vader of this movie, and that's really it. I just remember character traits or actors. There's just nothing memorable to these characters. There's nothing to make me latch on to these characters emotionally. I also forgot to mention this character when I originally recorded this review, but Ray Fisher is in this movie, whom Zack Snyder worked with in DC Universe when he played Cyborg. So I will say shout out to Zack Snyder for giving Ray Fisher work after Warner Brothers and DC did him dirty. And I did think Ray Fisher was probably the most charismatic person in this entire movie. Whenever he came on screen, I feel like the movie just kind of woke up for a bit. And with all that said, like, again, it does have some entertaining moments, but I don't see myself watching this again. And there's just nothing memorable about this movie. And I'm honestly not looking forward to part two. I mean, I'll watch it just because I got on this horse, now I gotta ride just to see how it goes through. And who knows, maybe part two is better than this movie. Maybe this movie will just make this whole Rebel Moon experience more worth it once I see part two. But overall, I just did not care for this movie. I'm gonna give Rebel Moon the angry face emoji.